Somebody got quiet on me. Well, good morning. We'd like to start with a prayer this morning. I'm going to ask Chairman Prince if he will lead us in prayer this morning.
Father, we thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for another opportunity to do the business of this great state of Georgia. Father, we ask that you be with us, give us your wisdom, your guidance, but most of all, your son Jesus and the decisions that we make. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning to everybody that got up to be with us this morning. We got our friends here from the Driver Services and the Department of Revenue. Glad to have you all this morning. What we're going to start with first, now we've had some members call in, had some tire trouble, couldn't make it, but we have enough for a quorum, so we will start with member introductions and just tell where you're from and what you. And we'll start with what number, Vance? Or 27.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Vance Smith. I represent District 138, which is part of Muskogee, Columbus, part of Harris County, my home county, and part of Troup County, LaGrange. Happy to be on the committee, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We've got a guest with us tomorrow. I'm going to let him introduce himself, number 28 down there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the opportunity to sit in and learn from you, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Meeks, District 178, neighboring district to the chairman down in South Georgia.
Well, glad to have you this morning. Number 24. You mashed a button. Are you 24? Try it now.
All right, there we go. I'm Danny Mathis. I represent District 149, Wilkinson County, Twigs County, Blakely County, Dodge County, half of Telfair. I'm honored to be on this. Thank you very much.
Glad to have you. Thanks for being here this morning. Number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dewey McLean, and I represent the big county of Gwinnett County. I'm in the heart. I have Lawrenceville, Norcross, Duluth, and Lilburn. And House District 109. They changed my number, so I'm 109. And, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to be on this committee for the last 6-7 years. So look forward to it.
We appreciate what you do and your contributions to this committee. Number 17.
Chairman, Representative Kimberly Alexander, and I represent District 66, which is Douglas County. Only Douglas County. Happy to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Number 3. Chairman Prince.
Good morning. I'm Representative Brian Prince from Augusta, Georgia. I represent parts of Richmond County and also all of Jefferson County, which is a rural area. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am Representative John Corbett, District 174. This is my 5th year on this committee, getting to chair this committee. I've learned a lot from our friends in the audience over the last 5 years when it comes to tags, titles, driver's license, rules of the road. So appreciate what y'all have done and helping me as we try to navigate and do what's best for the state of Georgia. Our counties I represent is Lowndes, Eccles, Clinch, Ware, Charlton, and now Brantley County. So I don't know if there's somebody to my left that had one county. So, and Commissioner Moore, they've been down to visit me a couple times in my district, and I told him if he gets to the Florida line, he's went just a little bit too far. But glad that he's willing to come down and meet with us down there. Anytime I can meet anywhere but Atlanta, it's a good thing. So at this time, we've a few other people I'd like to introduce. To my left here, our policy analyst, Bailey Jordan. This talking to her this morning. This is her 3rd year, first year doing this job, and I told her she's got a heavy task to try to keep this committee straight. But glad to have her this morning. We've got our legislative counsel, our Jenna Doldy, over here to our left, and we've got a special treat this morning. Abby Day, who everybody knows, everything transportation and just a wealth of knowledge, and been a great friend for the past 8 years I've been here. Glad to have you this morning. Let's see, who did I miss? Anyway, again, we're glad to have our friends in the audience. As far as our agenda today, everybody should have received a copy of our bylaws. The only change from what we had last year, I think on 18, Rule 18, we went to, it used to be 24-hour notice before we could make a change to the bylaws. Now it went to 72. And then 19, just members and those in the audience shall abide by the decorum rules contained in the rules and ethics and decorum of the House of Representatives. That's the only two changes that were made in the rules from last year. Does anybody have any questions about the committee rules? We have a motion and a second. I got a question. All right, here we go. Chairman Grant.
When you're looking at the rules, I think that's what we're talking about. You said
Yes.
bylaws. Okay. Number 20, was that in last year?
Yes. And he said number 20 was from last year. That's a rule from last year.
From last year. Also.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of adopting the rules, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, we have adopted our rules for this session. At this time, we've got some friends in the audience that we've asked to come and speak to us this morning. I'm going to ask Commissioner Moore if he will come up and introduce the members he brought with him this morning, and give us an update from DDS and what they're doing. A lot of people are interested in the digital driver's license. I get a lot of questions about our digital driver's license when we're coming out. So, Commissioner Moore, the floor is yours.
Provide an update from the department. I have with me Ms. Shavonda Leslie, who is our legislative liaison, as well as she is head of our governmental affairs at DDS. Also, we have our general counsel, person that keeps me straight, Angelique McClendon. And we also have our intern, and I forget the name. Isosa. Yeah, she might have to say that herself.
Isosa, or Sosa for short.
Sosa. So we're happy to come down this morning and share an update with the committee, let you know about the great things that our employees are doing at DDS to serve your constituents and you. We have been busy over the last year and several years, quite frankly, trying to do our very best to serve the citizens of our state in a efficient way. But one of the things that I always try to remind our staff in serving is our mission with excellence and respect. That's vital to what we do at the department. There are some times that we have to say no, but when we do that, we want to always do that respectfully. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I have a few slides that I'd like to present this morning. I think we provided it to the committee. And one of the focuses that DDS has had over the last several years, especially since the pandemic, by way if we're talking about the pandemic, just to remind the committee, we're one of very few states that was only closed 10 days, 10 business days during the pandemic. Therefore, we are one of the few states that does not have a backlog in a number of different areas. We are working very efficiently to continue to get people served. And we'll look at some of those times and performance metrics that we look at in the department to ensure that we're serving the public. We're trying to do that always with people, trained people, technology, and improved processes. So with that, we will start with a general slide that I like to provide when I'm giving an update about the department, because this is something that most people aren't aware of. We're obviously located in 67 locations around the state. If you were to look at the map that's on that particular slide, you'll see where we have offices. Proud to say that we're going to be opening 2 new sites, one of them in Douglasville. So Representative Alexander, I know she is proud of that. But just started with the very top bullet in the slide. We have 8.948 million people enrolled in Real ID in our state, 99.84%. As you might remember, we started issuing Real ID compliant licenses back in 2012. We are the leaders in the country in getting our citizens Real ID enrolled, meaning that they have provided us with the documentation that establishes their identity with the state, and we do our very best to ensure that in that process we're always mitigating fraud in that effort. Most people didn't realize we have obviously a state where a lot of people drive. We have 8.4 million valid license holders in our state. That is significant. And one of, as far as the state our size, as far as the population and the number of people that drive, obviously a significant amount. We served 2.3 million people face-to-face last year, 800,000 customers online, and we'll speak a little bit about that shortly. And, you know, one of the things many forget about is DDS has a regulatory responsibility, and we regulate more than 860 different regulated programs in our state. We're happy to do that because these are our partners. Many of them are small businesses around the state that help us train, educate, and the department could not serve its mission without the assistance of those small businesses. So we're certainly grateful for that. We have 8 part-time locations. I do want to speak about that really quickly this morning from the standpoint of we'll be reducing one of those over the next year as we build a new site nearby, and I'll talk and speak to that in just a moment. One of the proudest things that I am of our team at DDS is the way that we deliver services. Everything is measured. Every single service that we provide is measured. If you were to look on, I believe that is slide 4 in your deck, that is our in-person performance metrics by month and of course annually. We measure average statewide wait time, customers served within 30 minutes, the percentage of our centers that serve our customers in 30 minutes, the percentage of our centers within the average wait time, and then we certainly want to measure those longest wait times in our department. Again, I told you we served 2.3 million people face-to-face last year. In 2022, 2021, it was slightly higher than that at 2.4 million. One of the things that I'm really proud of, though, is you'll note at the very bottom of that slide, as far as the totals, is we reduced average statewide wait time by more than 4 minutes. And we also increased the amount of people that were served in 30 minutes or less in last year over 2021. What's important to note is in 2021, like all agencies as well as businesses, we were going through workforce shortages. So we had a lot of people that, for the pandemic reasons, did not want to be in public spaces, and that was a challenging year. It is the only year in which I have served as commissioner of the agency in which we didn't meet our overall service level of 95%. But despite the workforce challenges, of course, we did meet 90% of those customers served in 30 minutes or less. Service level is measured from the time that you get a ticket to the time that you get to a counter. So that is our measurement for the 30-minute wait time. Mr. Chairman, obviously, as I'm giving this presentation, whether we have questions at the point that I'm giving a particular portion of the presentation, I welcome the questions as we look at these numbers and go through our performance metrics for the department.
You talked about workforce.
Yes, sir.
How's your numbers now? Have that rebounded? As far as the numbers,
with your assistance as well, of course, as the governor's, When we saw the $5,000 pay increases last year, that greatly increased the retention level at our agency. I do have a slide relative to turnover. There is one area where we continue to struggle, but we are pushing through that. But in comparison to 2020, 2021, 2022 was a very good year as far as the workforce.
Well, I'd like to commend you and your employees for working through the pandemic. Only, I thought you said 10 days.
10 days
It
closed.
was down 10 days, and that was a testament to you and the people that work for you. Thank you. Number 12. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my apologies for being late this morning. Gwinnett traffic, it's a thing. I want to make a remark that I've had some experience the last couple of weeks at our tag office. Very quick, very efficient, so thank you. I can echo the remarks you're making. I'm curious where we are on the digital driver's license rollout.
That's a part of the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
We mentioned that to start with.
Okay.
That's a part of the presentation.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad to talk
Sorry I
about.
missed that.
Number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I heard about the wait time. I guess my concern is, was it due to staff shortages or was it due to the questions or the process? I'm just, if I had to wait 30, 40 minutes on the phone on the line,
Well, if you look at the document, the average statewide wait time in our state is less than 10 minutes. 8 minutes. And so 30 minutes is the goal, but we served average statewide wait time for 2022 was 8 minutes and 19 seconds.
well, that's I can probably hold 8 minutes. 30 minutes,
When Georgia is a state in which lots of people are transitioning to, and this is the remark that I get often from customers who are coming to us from other states, is they bring a book, assuming that they're going to have the experience that they've had in their home state or wherever they're transitioning from. Before they can open that book, typically one of our staff members is calling them. In most states, it's 4 to 5 to 6 hours. In our state, we have really held the line at the 30-minute level for many years, and we are achieving at really great service level over the last several years. Again, less than 10 minutes.
I want to commend you because I can hold 8 minutes. 30 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Next, I'll talk about some of our online services and our mobile app performance. These are remote services, obviously, our ability to serve customers. And most customers, because we are so efficient in person, we have more people that want to visit versus use our online services, which is an absolute great way in which you can be served. Last year, what we did with the implementation of drives with our partners at the Department of Revenue back in January of 2021 is, for security purposes, we had everyone reestablish their accounts with the department. That was very important for us. It allowed us to give the opportunity to also implement a two-factor authentication. All right. Authentication. All right. Something is not right with that particular word. But it allowed for us to authenticate people under two-factor, which was also a really big, important security step for the agency. So we were proud about that. I won't go over the numbers. They're very transparent. You can see those. One of the things that we focus on a lot is if you have an online account with us, you get push notifications if something changes, right? So if you become suspended at some point and you didn't realize that you were suspended, there's an automatic push notification that's sent to you to let you know that you have been suspended, or if something else changes on your license. This is a very good security feature, and one of the reasons why we want people to have online accounts with us. One of the things that we also wanted to thank the General Assembly for and certainly for the governor and his support is our contact center performance. That's an area where we have traditionally struggled. All contact centers across public and private sector, this is a very tough business, obviously. But one of the things that you allow for us to do when you helped us bring about a chat bot or a voice bot, we were able to put technology into our call centers to supplement that of our people. And one of the changes that you can note if you were to look at this chart, the one that's furthest to the right, when we were able to take just reservations, so those persons calling our office to get a reservation to do a road test, for example, when we're able to take that away from an individual and put it into the technology, you see we reduced the number of total reservation calls that were answered by people from 7,000 the previous month in July all the way down to 291 in August. That efficiency has helped us to improve service level overall in the contact center. You'll note when we finish December, and this trend is continuing to hold through the month of January, 92% of our calls were answered within a 4-minute mark. We're certainly proud of that. We're one of the busiest call centers in the state. 3.2 million people call our office. We were able to answer 1 million of those with people, another 2 million with technology. That was an investment made by the General Assembly to the department last year, and we're very happy to report that that investment is paying off. One of the things that is not probably talked about in the department is the records and number of things that we handle. Obviously, any court that adjudicates a traffic citation that comes to our office, more than 633,000 of those adjudications come in electronically. So those citations are submitted to our agency electronically. It is processed in a very efficient way through that electronic transmission. But as you can see by this chart, 254,000 pieces of correspondence or mail or some form of action that needs to be placed on a record comes in manually. These are handled by our records management staff. They're able to process these, and you will see the service level goals that we have established for those particular documents, and then the level of achievement. I don't believe that you see an achievement rate less than 99%, which lets you know that we are very efficient in the way that we handle documents that also come into our office. This is extremely important because it applies the consequence that has been, the consequence of whatever action has been taken quickly to those records, and then we can get those drivers notified. Mr. Chairman, you spoke a little bit about metrics on turnover, how we're doing. We're doing really good in 2022, as I indicated. One of the areas, what you see is in the blue, the overall DDS head count as of last year, and the turnover rate was roughly 33%. And you say, oh, that's pretty high. That's pretty, for our agency, that's getting toward an area where we can manage, right? We have never been much lower than this, even on years that were not pandemic related. Reasons, for all the reasons that we've talked about in many of our hearings across the state, the position, the starting pay for the driver examiner before last year in the $5,000 raise was $25,000. $25,000, obviously, if you're working in the metro Atlanta locations, you have the number of people that's coming in. There's a significant amount of training that has to be performed in order to do that job. It's a very intense job. We are happy to report after the $5,000 raise, that minimum went to $30,000. So now we're able to pay those examiners $30,000 to start. Where we see the highest turnover is our driver examiner ones, those people who have been with the agency less than 18 months. So if we can get them past that 18 months, you will see that turnover drop significantly down to 24%. If they're able to stay that long, and then even lower if you get into our assistant managers and our manager ranks, which leadership is very important to the way that we provide service. So that is very helpful. I do want to take this time just to talk a little bit about commercial driving. I had a chance to talk to Mr. Chairman earlier before the meeting started. Obviously, this is an area in which we are highly focused because we know its impact to the supply chain. So one of the things that we have been doing inside the agency is working, of course, with the governor's office, with Governor Kent, in order to put things in place that makes it more efficient to provide our services to these drivers so that we can get them on the road, getting products to market. We are looking, we have expanded our third-party CDL testing. We've created a DDS travel team. So what this does is it allows for us to provide the services not just during the hours that we operate, which are Tuesday through Saturday, half day on Saturday. We're able to go out and provide services even on Mondays or off hours. So we're very happy about bringing that CDL travel team with help from the FMCSA in order to provide that. We're also able to do more things as it relates to CDL online, which creates more efficiency for that driver. They don't have to come to one of our offices in order to get the services that they need. And then I talked about it as far as Douglasville, but we're going to be expanding 3 significant sites around the state for CDL testing, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple slides. But before we get to that, I also wanted to bring to the attention of the committee the fact that Georgia became a member of State to State in 2021, and what that means. If you have been around driver services or if you have been in this community for a long time, even as far back as the 1970s, 80s, there was this notion of one driver, one record, whether you lived in the state of Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, etc. Regardless of where you go, and there was a time many years ago in which an individual could perhaps, if they could somehow get past the systems because there were no ways to check for that, you could get a driving incident in our state. An example would be something like a DUI, something that may suspend you, go to another neighboring state, get a credential. Our systems were linking, in some cases as it relates to some of those major offenses, but as we signed those compacts many years ago, there was no way to universally look around the nation and ensure that those driver histories were linked. There are now 36 states, soon to be all states, that will be state-to-state compliant. Again, we have successfully onboarded this product and this service to our state. One of our neighboring states that's really big came aboard on MLK weekend this year, and that's Florida. And what we saw when they came aboard, that more than 200,000 drivers were listed in their state as well as ours. We're now able to mitigate that and ensure that there is a single record for a person in our state as well as in their state. So we're happy to implement this. This is something in the driving community that we have wanted for a long time. Many of you know I spent many years over the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. This is a very big highway safety initiative that now is implemented in our state, and we're looking forward to the other states to come aboard because, again, this will realize something that we have been trying to achieve for more than 40 years. One driver, one record. The history follows that individual regardless of where they are. So very happy. We also brought aboard a U.S. passport verification service in our office last year. What this allows for us to do is to verify that a person who has a passport, that passport is legitimate. Before, it was visual inspection. You're looking at it just like we train our examiners to do with all documents to ensure that it is the correct document. But now we're able to verify those passports in our state to ensure that they are authentic. So very happy about those achievements. Those aren't necessarily projects that get a lot of spotlight and attention like digital driver's licenses, but those are extremely the most the best types of projects that get us efficiency and get us clean drivers around our state. So we're happy about those services. Want to talk a little bit about the facilities that I just named. We are really in the process of building a lot of new centers, more efficient and modern centers around the state. We have projects going on right now in Douglasville, Oconee County. Douglasville is, I'll go back to Douglasville, that's a brand new site. So that is a net add. That is a CDL site that will give us the ability to provide more CDL tests for customers around the state. Oconee County, this is a new site, but we're already in Athens, so this is just moving that service from Athens right over to the neighboring Oconee County, and they will provide regular services. Hazelhurst, this is a South Georgia location that we are implementing, and we're hopeful that many of these, if not all of them, will be completed in 2023, if not in 2023, the first quarter of 2024. So in Hazelhurst, that will be a completely new CDL site serving that community. If you were in South Georgia, you know this. If you're a CDL holder, you can only go to Albany or you can go to Brunswick to get your commercial driving privileges. This gives us an avenue to serve some of those South Georgia locations in the middle of those two areas between Albany and Brunswick. So we're happy about that. When we opened Hazelhurst, we will close a part-time center in Helena, which is less than 30 minutes away, in order to be more efficient. We are also, I just saw a picture this morning, ground has been broke, and we are seeing the foundation laid and the site development down in Monroe County, Forsyth, Georgia, where we will again open a brand new CDL site. This will serve obviously an area that is also in need. Milledgeville is an area you would have gone to. You can be served up in Jackson, but that's very limited. We're only there in a couple of days a week. So we're happy about opening Monroe County. We're seeking to expand in Rome. We have a new project that is going to begin in Gainesville, and we are looking to renovate in both Covington and Noonan. Covington, these are local partnerships. What I'm happy to say is all the effort is not state. Some of it is county effort in which we are able to partner with counties in order to provide these services to their citizens. And now we'll talk about new technology and the things. I think this is probably one of the most anticipated endeavors for our state in ways of an initiative that gives us, and most people don't think about this, but when you hand your physical card to any individual, you're giving over a lot of history about yourself, where you live, how old you are, obviously things that can be used in fraud purposes at a later date. I'm happy to report that this year, hopefully sometime in the first half of this year, we are still working through those negotiations and those contract efforts with some of the phone manufacturers for this to be a wallet application. So this won't be you having to download an app and keep that app relevant for the use, but it'll be a wallet application in which you will be able to present and have a digital Georgia driver's license. In that effort, and it has been one that has probably taken 4 or 5 years, there are some states that have preceded us. Arizona, Maryland, and Colorado are the 3 that are currently on the platform that we hope to achieve. But Georgia's effort wasn't necessarily to be first, it was to be right. And we have worked very hard over the last 5 years to ensure that our implementation is right. And as I talked to those administrators around those particular 3 states, 2 of which I talked to just last week, there are some things that they wish they had had in their effort that we will have, because we have been very patient in our implementation. But what this will allow you to do, again, is through your wallet experience. Many of us have credit cards, etc. A plane ticket if you're flying on a plane. In your digital wallet on your phone that allows you to present it at the time that it's used. I will caution, our first effort is with TSA. So the way that you will present that mobile credential first in its pilot phase will be with the TSA in an effort when you're flying, and then what we expect to happen over a period of time. This technology isn't so quick that you can just turn it on, right? There also has to be a relying party. This is not just about presentation. So this is not just about having something on your phone, but it's about having something on your phone in which once it's complete, I need to speed up, Mr. Chairman.
Just a little bit.
Yes, a little bit. Once it's complete, they're verifying against the state to ensure that the individual that's in front of them is the right individual. So there's a verification that comes back to us. So it's not visual presentation. I really want to highlight that, because I think people just want to have something on their phones that show that they have a credential. This technology is beyond that. It's beyond just having a presentation. And if you remember when we changed the laws back in 2020, this will not replace the physical card. So if law enforcement stops you, you still will have to present your physical card to the officer, but it will allow you to have much more secure transactions in the future with financial institutions, with rental car companies, with all these different types of platforms and services that you might need as a citizen. So it's on the way. First half of this year. I can't give you a definitive date, but we certainly are in a test and pilot and moving very, very hard to make this a reality. The only other things I'll talk about real quickly is, and this is the last slide, Mr. Chairman, is our partnership with the Department of Revenue. You can currently go to many kiosks around the state, I believe upwards of 60, and get your tag service. We're going to add driver services to many of those kiosks that are currently located in grocery stores, thanks to the help of DOR and their team, as well as thanks to the help of the vendor who is providing this service. We will also have some self-service options in many of about 20 of our high volume locations around the state. I will pause there, Mr. Chairman, for any questions.
I'm going to ask any member that has any questions to get with you offline,
Okay.
because we got DOR here as well. Go let them, if they would, come to the podium of Austin or Ms. Watson. I don't know who's will be presenting this morning. Okay, Robert Worrell.
Robert.
So, and while he's coming to the podium, I left a couple people out I didn't recognize this morning. They were hiding behind the podium back there. Shannon Willis, is Shannon still back there? That is my new administrative assistant, doing a wonderful job. And then Morgan, and I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but she is our intern this year. Glad to have them with us. All right, yeah. Flat tire. Yes, sir. Just moped, okay. And for any member that does not have Mr. Worrell's phone number, they need to get it. He has a wealth of knowledge. Anytime I have a constituent that has an issue, he has been very gracious to talk to them and work them through whatever that issue is. And I want to thank him for that, and the floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee, for allowing us to speak today. Unfortunately, I don't have my PowerPoint with me. I don't believe we can pull the email for the PowerPoint here. So I'll just kind of talk about some of the things that we've been doing in motor vehicle here the last year, and some of the things we're currently doing right now. So there's a few things that I want to discuss that motor vehicle has been involved in. Just some things that I want to touch on that happened this year. Certainly, if there's any other issues that you guys would like to discuss, that's completely fine. I do have a portion at the end where we can ask questions, but please, of course, ask questions during if you would like. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of where we were mid-2022. We were in a very challenging time within motor vehicle because we had a significant backlog in some of our major areas, such as titles. We had some long wait times in the call center and things like that. And it was mostly, unfortunately, due to what I think a lot of state agencies were dealing with was staffing issues. We had a lot of tenured employees that had left. And then we had some people who were moving on for other opportunities. So we had a reduced workforce, but of course the work doesn't reduce proportionately. So we did have a lot of work coming in to the motor vehicle division. And so, you know, we tried some different things to try to alleviate that, which helped, but we wanted to get some fresh eyes on our processes. So we brought in a organization, North Highland Group, to assess motor vehicle. And it was a very rapid assessment. It only took about 7 weeks from the time that they walked in the door to the time that they gave us our final report. And they looked at all areas of motor vehicle. And what they really determined was that there was a lot of things that we could work on, but what we wanted to concentrate on were the things that we could do as quick as possible with the highest amount of impact. And a lot of that had to do with how quickly we could bring people into the organization. If you don't know motor vehicles, when you onboard someone, you go through the standard criminal background check and things of that nature, but you also go through a very extensive tax records check, which can take some time. And it was difficult bringing people in, especially temporary employees, because we're competing with other agencies for that personnel. And if our process takes a lot longer, it makes it more difficult to bring folks in. So one of the things that they observed is that we really would need to look at our onboarding requirements if we expected to bring people in and get this backlog down as quickly as possible. So they advised that we prioritize this short-term recruitment of folks that are coming in, maybe alter some of our requirements as they are onboarded to see if that would help. They also suggested that we continue our automation process, meaning a lot of our processes were manual, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit later, that we needed to work on to try to automate as much as possible so we could do it with less people. They also talked about targeting strategic hiring with motor vehicle experience. For those who don't know, motor vehicles has a lot of things that it encompasses, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of involvement with third parties. And so the only people that do what we do are people who already work for us or who work with the local county tag offices. And so we wanted to, when we're recruiting, to reach out to those organizations to make sure that we're allowing them to know what positions were available and see if we could bring some people into the fold that already had experience that we did not have to do as much training with. So as a result, we were able to temporarily remove that tax records check with our temporary employees that were coming in. And that was really beneficial because we saw that at the same time we increased our pay to compete with some other state agencies for temporary work. So we were able to get people in really, really quickly and then target them on areas that take the least amount of training so that we could then move our employees off of that work and onto other more difficult types of work that involve more training. So we brought those folks in and targeted that work, and we saw an immediate improvement. So I can give an example of our rebuilt process for people who are going through a salvage total loss claim where the vehicle's being repaired. We were working with about a 2-month backlog middle part of the year. And so we train people on other processes outside of that because that's one of our more difficult processes. And so we shifted resources to that area. And I'm happy to say that by November of last year, we had reduced that backlog to 2 weeks from 2 months. So that was a very substantial jump. And we really saw that in all of our areas, including standard salvage, including replacements, corrections, all of those areas. We really did not have a backlog after December of 2022, which of course reduced our call center numbers. And it also helped to kind of alleviate any morale issues we were having with people being overwhelmed with the amount of work that they were seeing sitting on our shelves. We also were able to balance and reduce the amount of IRP backlog that we had. And I'll get a little bit into that, but really what we did is shift our resources to the new accounts because we saw growth in the amount of people that were becoming trucking companies. And so we shifted resources to that and concentrated on that. And then later in the month before renewal was over, we concentrated on renewals. So we were able to see a shift just by changing the priority in which we were processing the IRP work. We also moved from our email help desk to a web form submission. So there was a large percentage of our emails that we would get in that were, I'm sorry, did you have a question, sir? Oh. That were coming to us that really didn't have much to do with motor vehicle. It would maybe something to do with DDS, or it could be something completely different. So the web form really targeted what the person wanted to address, and we could automate a response that would send them to the appropriate area if it did not have to do with motor vehicle. So we saw probably about a 20% reduction in the amount of emails versus web form applications that we received. Another thing I wanted to touch on that we worked on really at the end of 2021, but it did also cross over in 2022, was the move for our drives system to the cloud. So that was something we did over the weekend, New Year's weekend in 2022. And although that was a heavy technical lift, it also was a very heavy lift for the business, meaning my office, of course, but of course our county tag offices, because they use our system just as much as we do. So we did work closely with the tag offices in training, doing verification of our data once it did move over to the cloud. And that's pretty much, that's everything moved, and we had to verify that everything was there once we moved it over. So there was a significant effort after the fact as well as before. So that was something we worked closely with the counties on. And ultimately, the move to the cloud has yielded a more stable environment for drives. We're seeing less downtime, less situations where there may be issues with printing and things like that. We've seen a reduction of all of that across the board. Another thing that we'd like to work on, and it's an objective that we say that we're continuing in 2022 and now, of course, 2023, is communication and training for the county. So getting the information out to them about changes and things that they may not be aware of. So one of our initiatives that we put in place that has been very popular, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on our webinars that we've been having for the county. So we try to have these each month where we would tackle an individual topic. The counties would, of course, participate, ask questions during, and anytime we're bringing up something new, the first step is always to have a webinar and communicate directly with our county partners. It is very difficult to get out and see the counties face to face. There's 159 and 194 different offices, so it does get difficult to go that route. So the webinars have been very helpful to disseminate information. We've also allowed remote access to drives for training to the counties. So this is what we call a sandbox environment that we provided, which allows them to train new employees with production data, so they can actually see how the system works. And that's something that we didn't have in the past, but it's been very beneficial for their training purposes. We also have developed a Drives Partners page, drivepartners.com, which has all the information from the webinars, any training pieces. It has a portion for stakeholders, so dealers, insurance companies, any folks that work directly with the department. They can go to this site and get information about things that are going on in the division. I want to quickly talk about the legislation that we implemented last year, which was successful. We did put all of this in place on time. We didn't have that much last year, so we'll see how it goes this year. But we did implement a new license plate for Tybee Island. We changed our system to exempt low-speed vehicles from amber light permit requirements. And we also changed our process for dealers who were applying for their dealer plates upon renewal to do a look back to pre-pandemic levels so that they could get plates based upon their 2019 sales as opposed to their sales during the pandemic, which overall were lower. I wanted to give an update on digital license plates. So there was a bill that passed a couple of years ago to initiate this process in Georgia to have digital license plates. So we did publish rules last year that were implemented in October of 2022. And we posted an RFP to see what companies were able to manufacture these plates and put them on the roads. So we actually posted on in July of last year, and we closed in September. And we had folks that would test with SRTA, State Road Toll Authority, to see if they met the standards of their LLPRs and to make sure that they were readable by any law enforcement that may use a tag reader on them. So the initial results that we received were lower than we expected compared to a standard plate. We wanted to at least come close to the standard of a metal plate in terms of readability, and these levels were far lower. The normal plate is 95% readability with a LPR, and these were in the 50s, 40s.
Can you speak to the cost of these digital plates versus the metal plates? I mean, the average person is not going to go out and buy these digital plates.
Right. So we've heard from certain companies that they would start about $500 for a purchase or a lease program they would have that would be $20, $30 a month, something like that.
Thank you.
So when we didn't find that any company was able to provide these plates with any readability, we extended the RFP to see if maybe they could calibrate what they're doing to have proper readability, because we had heard that they were available in certain other states. What we found out was that in some of these states, the testing that was done wasn't necessarily in a real world environment. It was kind of in a artificial environment. So seeing in the real world, it operated a little differently. So we did extend, allow them to come back and do additional testing, and we did not see any improvements in the readability. And so therefore we had to cancel the RFP, and we're going to revisit it at a later date, hopefully when there's more maturity in the technology. Another thing we worked on, and then we are currently working on, is a move from our current payment provider, ACI Worldwide, to Grant Street. And so we had a competitive bid in 2021, and we awarded the contract in 2021, and we started the process with our motor vehicle division. So this is a phased approach. It's going to touch all of the Department of Revenue, but we began with motor vehicle with our IRP service, and we did move that in August of 2022, which was successful. So we decided to move on to the drives portion. So that'll be the drives e-services, as well as over-the-counter at our South Meadow location. So the money that we're receiving and also the money on our website that the counties are receiving will also go through Grant Street. And so we're expecting that we should be moving forward with that in implementing in the late spring of this year. There's a lot of benefits for going to Grant Street. Number one, of course, is the cost. The cost to the consumer is going to be significantly less. We've also seen that there is a current price increase for ACI right now, so it's going to be an even greater difference between what Grant Street is charging and what ACI previously was. So that's a big thing for customers, especially because, you know, in our tightened economy, everybody's looking at every dollar. The e-check process that was $3 under ACI is a free product through Grant Street, so people can utilize that for free. We're also expanding our payment options by adding PayPal and Venmo as a method of payment on our online services. So I want to talk a little bit about the school bus school zone hold process that was put in place in 2019. So this is a process where if a vehicle is running the stop for a school bus or running through a school zone, speeding, a camera will record that information and they will get a citation through the local government. And if that's not paid, they'll send it to the department and we'll put a hold on your title and your registration. So when we initially enacted this way back in 2019, initial discussions kind of mentioned that we would have probably 100 of these a month, something like that. And of course, that's not the case. And we built the system based upon that, meaning we built it pretty manual because we were trying to do it quickly and get it in place in an expedient manner. So we built it for that. We had one person dedicated to working that along with their other work as well. And that worked for the initial year in 2019. The next year we saw a significant jump in the usage up to about 12,000 or so of those transactions, which meant, of course, we had to put more people into that process. The following year, we saw almost 60,000 transactions. And we're still continuing to see that growth of people submitting those requests to us. So we've had to try to change our process and bring more people into it, even though we did not have the personnel dedicated or funded, really, for that process. So hearkening back to the assessment that we had in terms of automation, we're looking at ways to automate that process. So the first step that we put in place earlier this year was to move the letter printing from a manual process where somebody is actually printing that letter and stuffing an envelope and moving that over to our print vendor who is going to do all that printing for us. So we had to update the system, send that to them, and we put that in place. The next step that we're working on now is actually automating the submission of that process, because we did have someone who was actually going in manually approving each one. We're changing the system so that it looks at different fields that they submit, to determine whether or not a hold will be placed on the vehicle. So we're looking to have that completed towards the middle of this year, and that will alleviate some of what we're dealing with in terms of the amount of people we have working on that process. Another goal that we're working on right now that's in development is in regards to our IRP program. So, as I mentioned before, IRP has really grown in the last couple of years as a result of the pandemic. We've seen probably a 40% increase in the number of new accounts from several years ago to what we have right now. And so we saw the public see some of our pain points as far as this new process. A letter was sent last year to the governor's office that I feel was constructive criticism, saying basically the department has good people, but their systems are difficult to deal with. That I'm taking a long time to get my vehicle on the road after I purchased it, and things of that nature. So we took that to heart. And so we looked at ways that we can improve. And as I mentioned before, we did alter our systems to adjust that some in our processes to alleviate those pain points. I had a kind of a chart to show you exactly what the growth in IRP looks like. And it's pretty stark when you consider where we were a few years ago. Our system is challenging. I'll say that, because there's a lot of things that you can't do as a new account holder that you can if you're renewing. If you're already established, it's pretty straightforward and it's easy because your account is already there. But there really isn't a way to upload documents in our current system. All of that has to be sent through email, and if there's something missing, you kind of go to the back of the line as far as a return email. So that's been something that's been a challenge for us. So as a result, we're currently working on a system called Easy IRP, which is an interface with our current process, which is a front end to kind of determine what people need and for them to submit the documents electronically and get feedback from us real time. So there would be a feature where they can ask for help from somebody who is looking at their account and things of that nature. We liken it to some of the popular tax software that kind of takes you step by step to say, do you have this? Do you have that? Move on to the next step. So it's really designed to walk people through who aren't very familiar with the IRP process or just starting out, or they don't work with a service provider currently, smaller organizations, smaller trucking companies. So we're working on that process, and we're hoping to have that before the middle of the year complete and at least piloted by the spring to see if that's going to be something that's going to be beneficial to everyone. I believe it will, just in terms of its ability to give real-time help to people who are trying to go through this process. So we're really excited about that. I had a few statistical charts just to show you some data from motor vehicle. One of the ones that I brought up that was interesting was our tag renewal stats. I attended a meeting with some of our other states earlier this year, or late last year, to kind of talk about our processes. And what I heard from a lot of folks was that they've seen, since the end of the pandemic, they've seen people go away from their online services to kind of come back into the office and see a decline that way. And I wanted to show that in Georgia, we're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing people who went that route during the pandemic and like the results that they got. So that we're seeing an increase across the board in use of our kiosk services. Commissioner Moore talked about that earlier today. We're up to 81 participating counties total. Not all have a kiosk in their county, but they can participate, allowing folks who reside in their county but may be visiting another county to use that service. So we've seen a lot of interest in that. States were asking me about the process and wanting to come visit and see it. And so I think a lot of people were looking at us as kind of a model of, hey, we don't necessarily have to bring everybody back in, or people don't have to come back in. You can provide additional services that's going to make it beneficial and more efficient for the customer. So I'll end with just kind of our future goals. I mean, of course, legislation is our top priority. We're kind of waiting on certain projects outside of the ones that we're working on right now to see what we get this year. So, you know, we're making sure that we're freed up to be able to make any changes that need to be made in a timely manner. We're always, as I kind of mentioned before, trying to keep our customers in the driver's seat, give them access to additional services. One of the things that we're working on right now, I mentioned our rebuild process earlier. We're moving a portion of that to the county tag offices for people who are bringing a rebuilt vehicle into Georgia, as opposed to them going to motor vehicle to get this done. Be able to do that at the tag office and kind of increase the amount of time it takes for them to actually get a plate to be driven in Georgia. So they have to go through the inspection process, but they don't have to go to the motor vehicle first.
Robert, thank you for that presentation. I do have one question or comment. You was talking about the dealer plates, where we went back to 2020 levels, look back for the number of plates they can receive. I've over the last few years, I've got many questions or complaints, whatever, about they see a lot of dealer plates on cars that may or may not be actually dealers. And what's the process for somebody to get a dealer plate? Can you speak to that? I mean, do they have to sell any cars to receive a plate, or just go apply to be a dealer and they can get a plate and put on their?
Right. Well, there's a two-step process. Your initial license is done through the Secretary of State's office. So the requirements to become a dealer actually occur on that side. Basically, once you have that dealer's license, for us, you just kind of have to prove some additional information. You have to provide your tax ID and verify that you don't have liabilities. We have to verify your place of business, so we need photos and things of that nature. So we're more verifying what they've initially submitted through the Secretary of State's office in order to get a dealer plate.
But there's no requirement to sell 2 cars or 3 cars or any cars.
Correct. The current allowance is for 3 dealer plates for any dealer. So regardless of how many you sell, you can increase that by proving sales for the next year, but it doesn't decrease if you sell less vehicles at all.
Okay. We have a couple more questions. Number 25, Representative Montahan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your presentation. I had ask you 3 questions. So, walking through if somebody lapses on the insurance, the Department of Revenue is supposed to terminate that registration or suspend that registration. Can you walk me through that process of what that looks like on y'all's side?
So for insurance lapse, basically for the insurance process, we get the data from the insurance companies. We have a system called GEICS that they enter the start date of insurance, and they can enter the term date, or they may not. They may only enter that once someone stops paying. So we base our insurance lapse letters on that. So if the insurance company indicates that they no longer have coverage for the vehicle and they have an active registration, then we'll send a letter basically saying 30 days from now, you have to pay this fine, or you would, and also show that you have valid insurance. And if they don't submit that information to us, meaning update it showing that there's a valid insurance, then automatically their registration will be suspended on the 30th day. And if someone were to come in and pay those fees through the tag office or online through our website, then it will reinstate it as long as they've made the payment and they also have active insurance currently.
Okay. Let me ask you, how many of those suspensions do y'all see a year right now?
The suspensions, well, we send out probably 200,000 letters a year, something like that. The actual suspensions are, of course, less than that. I mean, if I had to guess, I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm thinking maybe 60,000 of those wind up getting suspended.
What would you say the cost are associated to those suspensions?
The cost?
Yeah, the cost of the department.
Well, it's the major cost is letters and postage.
Right.
I mean, that's the big one. A lot of times we're sending letters out when folks don't cancel their insurance. Let's say that they sold the vehicle or something like that, and the dealer has not transferred it yet. So it still shows it's under their account, but they're not. They don't have a valid insurance to go with their registration. So we're seeing a lot of letters go out that maybe shouldn't ultimately. So, but that's the main cost is going to be that postage and the printing of the letter.
Okay. Let's shift subjects real quick. In Paulding County, over the past year, I've had complaints about the the trailer, the little plates that you put on a homemade trailer to tag it. They've been out of stock quite frequently. And so a lot of folks that are trying to get their boat trailers going or just a regular homemade trailer that they weld in the backyard, they're having a real hard time getting those tagged. Have y'all found a solution to the shortage of those?
Well, I'm not really aware of a shortage with those. We haven't had, I'm not aware of any indication of a shortage. We do require certain things before you're supposed to provide a T-serial plate, which is what we call them. And a lot of times we run into issues where it may not necessarily be a homemade trailer. It could be a manufactured trailer. That's kind of our main issue. But certainly I can, and you said which county?
Yeah, in Paulding, yeah, they're not able to get the actual, trailer tags. I didn't know if y'all had a shortage. They had told us that there was a shortage, that y'all did not have any available to send out. And so for about a month and a half, they didn't have any. I didn't know if y'all had found a supplier for those.
Yeah, I'm not aware of an issue there, but I certainly can look into that.
Okay. Do I have time for one more, Mr. Chairman?
Well, let's take it offline. We ran way over. It's not typical for a typical Motor Vehicles Committee meeting. I apologize for that, starting late. But thank you, everybody, for hanging around. If you have any further questions, I'm sure to answer anything you have offline. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday. I think we have a couple department bills with DDS in here next week. So look forward to seeing everybody next week, and the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.